Question from my anonymous feedback form. Do you elect your recordings? No, I do not. Thank you for the question, Anonymous. I do not elect my recordings anymore. And I do not choose the planetary hour for them anymore. I just, we can see what kind of results that's getting me. I just focus on getting my butt in front of the camera and making it happen. Because when you make a video every week, that's what it becomes. Just make sure it exists. So no, that's a cool idea, and but I don't worry about it anymore because now I make so many recordings that that would be exhausting to just elect everything I record. I should invest maybe some electional brain power and scheduling into my weeklies. Maybe that would show up in my results better. I don't know. I might delete this. So if you have a question that you want me to answer on the show, then send it to my anonymous feedback form, or I might ignore it. This week, Mercury stations direct. Thank goodness. We've done it again. We made it. And it stations direct at 4 minutes, 14 seconds Leo. And this station is configured pretty tightly to the future, which is Pluto in early Aquarius, trining Uranus in early Gemini, trining Saturn and Neptune in Aries. And if you want to know more about that, my take on that, watch the live broadcast. You can fast forward through the weekly forecast that I did at the beginning of it, but I talk a lot about that configuration in that video. Where was I looking? Not into the camera, just into the void is where I was looking. So Mercury stations direct, that's exciting. Monday, a lot, some big things happen. Saturn sextiles Uranus again. So the last time Saturn sextiles Uranus for this, like, because so when you get oh my god, I can't, my deer in headlights thing where I can't talk. Mercury retrograde problems. I'm gonna blame it. I'm going to blame it on the astrology. I'm just not in the zone today. So, okay, when outer planets are in aspect, often it's not just like, oh, they aspect each other and then they move on. Because of outer planet retrogrades, which are like half the year the outer planets are retrograde, outer planet aspects go exact, usually more than once, usually 2 or 3 times. So the last time during this this installment of Saturn's closing sextile with Uranus, it was on April 4th. And that's when, I think it's because the tariffs were announced. I don't remember if that's why, it doesn't matter. You can look it up and put it in the comments. And if you do that, I thank you. The stock market went straight down. So I expect something along those lines or some part of that story, but it's going to be different because that was Saturn sextiling Uranus in Saturn in Pisces and Uranus in Taurus. So this is happening at the end of Pisces and Taurus. This Saturn-Uranus sextile is in Aries and Gemini, so it's like the same but different. It's some other, and that was a disruption of the old, like the money system, the existing money system, the legacy, established. Those are the adjectives I can think of right now. And so this, I expect a disruption of something new or some sort of continuation of that story, and then whatever it is in your life that began. I know that I had much much was disrupted. And like, I thought that the tremors were over during that time, but those were just the pre-earthquakes. What are pre-earthquakes called? I don't know. And the real cracking open of the crust of the earth happened later. So, but that was very unique astrology in April. So look back to April, except this is in different parts of life. And yeah, it's kind of a big deal. On Monday, Saturn sextile Uranus goes exact. You might have felt it at the end of last week too, or all last week. They're slow moving planets, so the way that Saturn sextile Uranus reverberates throughout reality has kind of a more extended timeline of its effects, as opposed to like when the moon aspects something. And then the third Saturn-Uranus sextile will be in January, and that will be in late Pisces and late Taurus again. So I'm interested to see what this little era is about. It really started off with a bang with that straight down stock market. And Uranus and Gemini, I told you to go watch the live if you want to know more. Or you can watch my 9 hours of tech news video if you want to know more about what I think of the future and how money is changing. But Uranus and Gemini has a lot to do with that. So I sense some sort of like, here's a new system we can use being introduced in maybe a loud way. Maybe not exactly on Monday. I'm recording this well in advance. So I'm recording this on, let me tell you what day it is. I don't know what day it is. Friday, August 1st. Okay, so, and that goes exact 8:32 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time on Monday. And also something nice, so at least it's off axis from this Saturn-Uranus thing. So something, I mean, I guess, no, it's not off axis at all. It's loosely separating from a square. So ignore that I said that. Okay, squaring it, maybe like something good gets in the way of something disruptive or annoying or bad, or just disruptive doesn't have to mean bad. Venus conjoins Jupiter in Cancer. That's wonderful. Venus doesn't have any particular dignity in the sign of Cancer, but she does very well in the sign of Cancer. Those significations match very well, and she has triplicity dignity, meaning she's in a nighttime sign, a yin sign, which is where she functions best. So Monday night seems nice. The moon is void also. So these big aspects happen when the moon is void. So I don't know, maybe this Saturn sextile Uranus goes under the radar and it's something that we find out about later. It doesn't, the moon doesn't have a next aspect when Mercury stations direct, when Saturn sextiles Uranus, and when Venus conjoins Jupiter. That doesn't mean they're void themselves. But the moon is activator of the zodiac, and on Tuesday the moon moves back into Aries. I don't know why I said back. Like, it was there like a month ago, and that's how it works. The moon transits the entire zodiac once a month. Tuesday, the moon does a lot, so maybe Tuesday is busy. It does a lot with the outer planets, though. Well, okay. Let me specify. Tuesday, a lot happens in the middle of the night, or like early in the morning. So if you wake up early, you have a busy morning. There's a lot happening. There's a lot of like grand scale stuff being pointed to, and the moon is opposing Mars. So it's like the moon is void on Monday, but then everything just comes, it's like you didn't check your emails for a long time, which I've done before, which I've been known to do. And then, or like in the olden days when you would like have to, sorry, I'm having a hair static problem, and I'm out of the stuff that I use for hair static. That I discovered something that is a godsend, but I don't have any. One moment. Okay, so what I'm doing is like I'm hitting it with a little bit of water, and that actually makes it worse eventually when the water wears off. And it also makes my hair look very ratty. Follow me for more beauty tips. Okay, so in the olden days when you would check your email and you would have to use an email client, I mean, there was webmail, but like if you had like work email, it was normally like in an email program inside the computer. And sometimes it would get hung up, so you would think you didn't have emails, and then like it would have like, you know what I'm talking about. Then they would all just come rolling in, and you realize you have emails. Okay, so that's kind of what Tuesday is, because you get all these aspects early in the morning, right after the moon enters Aries. It just pings everything. It conjoins Saturn and Uranus at like 5 a.m. and then Neptune around 6:30 a.m. and then Pluto at 7 a.m. The moon opposes Mars at 9 a.m. and then at 10 a.m. the moon trines Mercury, which is just stationed. So it's like Monday, we're kind of in like an in-between worlds, and these big things are happening, but Tuesday, it just is all activated. So, and then that's it until the moon squares Jupiter around 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. on Wednesday. So the rest, if you can get through the morning on Tuesday, Tuesday might be one of those mornings where you wake up without an alarm, but if you want to wake up early and you're not good at that, this isn't a theme in my life at all. Then Tuesday you might get a helping hand from the gods, because that is a vigorous looking morning. And do a good job so you can celebrate with the moon squaring Jupiter in Cancer. And also that's the moon immediately after, like 2 hours after, the moon squares Venus in Cancer. So this is the moon activation of the Venus-Jupiter conjunction. So that seems nice. So do a good job and get your work done and be good. And maybe Tuesday night will be fun. Wednesday, after that, is just the moon trining the sun. So, and then after that, the moon's void, and the moon doesn't move into Taurus until Thursday. Thursday, something strange happens, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. So the moon moves into Taurus at 6 a.m., so we have a vibe shift. Monday is one thing. Tuesday is a whole another thing. Wednesday is like recovering from Tuesday, and then Thursday, the moon moves into Taurus. The moon squares Pluto and squares Mercury, freshly stationed, which is opposite Pluto. So there's some sort of now that I think about this, like, and I was wondering why Yijing kept telling me not to post the next installment of my Perseus Slays Medusa reels that nobody cares about with me, but those are my favorite reels to make. I have a feeling it's just not that important. But this like Mercury opposite Pluto is interesting in terms of the ways that I've been allowing messages from unconventional sources to influence what I post. So the beginning of Thursday seems kind of greeting. After the moon squares Mercury around 3 p.m. Pacific, then the moon is sextiling Jupiter, which doesn't happen until Friday morning. But here's the weird thing that happens. Mercury sextiles Mars, and that's not that weird, but because Mercury just stationed, Mercury's moving really slow. It's actually moving slower than Mars, but in like 2 days it's going to start moving faster than Mars, so it's going to sextile Mars again. And that's weird. So that happens on Thursday as the moon is sextiling Jupiter. And Mercury will catch up with Mars. So like Mars passes Mercury and then Mercury passes Mars. Beautiful dance. So there's something, a Mars-Mercury signature is like engineering. It's like fixing things, troubleshooting. It could be an argument. This is a sextile, so it's more an opportunity to roll your sleeves up and figure something out. Maybe, excuse me, figure something out. Ugh. I just like, I'm so uncomfortable with my videos lately because I don't, like, everything is temporary. Uranus is in my 4th house. So every single thing is temporary, and I don't have like a comfortable okay, I think it was Benjamin Disraeli who said, never complain, never explain. Okay, so Mars, Mercury. This is Mars in Libra and Mercury in Leo. So there's something very social. There's something about saying what you need to say, and maybe you have to like figure out how to say something with tact and grace, or figure out how to have a difficult conversation, approach it with curiosity. I got that from somewhere. And yeah, maybe it's a difficult conversation. There's like a highly social component and something to do with visibility, or your words being received publicly or in a leadership capacity, and some passive aggressiveness, or some like maybe wanting to get into an argument but finding a more creative way that is maybe more along the lines of setting an example instead of getting in the argument. So that's what I've made up about the Mars thing, but it could be something else. But social, visible. And it happens again. So it happens, this aspect goes exact 7 p.m. Pacific on Thursday, and then again at 10 on Sunday. And we're getting to the end of Leo season, which I can't believe. And Virgo season is technically still summer, but Virgo season is like the fall of summer. So on Friday, so Thursday night, whatever that is about, the Mercury-Mars thing, the moon is sextiling Jupiter. That's the moon in Taurus, sextiling Jupiter in Cancer. That sounds delightful. That is like a delicious dinner or something. That sounds very like sensory and friendly, like emotionally entangled in a good way. And the moon also sextiles Venus. So Friday, Venus's day, this is another activation of the Venus-Jupiter sextile, is Friday seems nice. And then the moon is waning, so after Friday night, the moon is officially in its last quarter. So this is when the moon is, it's like, so the moon is activator of the zodiac, but the moon activates things in different ways according to its phase. So after Friday, the moon is in its last quarter, and so the way it activates things is in a manner that is more like cold to the touch, ending things. Whereas when the moon is in its third quarter, as it was for much of the week, it still has, it's like infusing things with life and energy. But now we're winding things down. Saturday is like that's like a replay of Tuesday, kind of, except from the Gemini angle instead of the Aries angle. So the moon goes through all those aspects, everything, every single thing about our future that we share together, all the outer planets, and Mercury and Mars. So it's an activation of the Mars-Mercury thing, it's an activation of the Saturn-Uranus thing. It is not, Saturday is not an activation of the Venus-Neptune thing. I'm sorry, the Venus-Jupiter thing. So Saturday is a reverberation of Tuesday. They're similar days, they're just coming at it from a different angle. And then Sunday, Mercury sextiles Mars again at the end of the day. And that's it. There's not even really anything to write home about, like late night going into Monday, because the beginning of Monday is the moon aspecting the sun and then being void and then moving into Cancer. So we don't need to move on to that. Let me know what your Mars-Mercury thing was, because I'm curious. The strange aspect that happens twice. Normally when an aspect happens twice, it is because a planet is retrograde, and so it, like, you know, goes back over it when it's going backwards. But this is not the case. This is just like a planet that is normally slower than Mercury is somehow going faster, and because of the timing. So it's interesting how these things show up in life too, because it's like there's this rare dance of timing that is anomalous in the geometry and astronomy, anomalous in regards to the hands of the giant clock that we live in. And it tends to show up that way in life. Also, some sort of connection. This is, both Mars and Mercury are about are relational. Venus, Mars, and Mercury are all relational, just in different ways. So that's it. Remember, your Wi-Fi is a camera that can see through walls, and love everyone and tell the truth.